Diamond Washington, an undergrad film student, member of the Abraxas Society, and potentially our next Life is Strange protagonist. Let's talk about it. Well, hello, my name is Mon, and I am bringing you another Life is Strange discussion video today. And we will be talking about Diamond potentially being our next Life is Strange protagonist and what she could bring to the franchise. So in Double Exposure, Diamond seemed like our everyday character who we get to interact with, but what Deck 9 were hiding is that she might be the star of the next Life is Strange game. So, to recap, at the end of Life is Strange Double Exposure, we got this cutscene. Shit!
We're gonna have to get you a blood transfusion.
What the fuck are you doing here?
You remember me. That's flattering. I've seen nosebleeds like that before. So you can run, or you can follow me and get some answers. Your choice.
So that very heavily hinted that Diamond also has powers. She goes off with Sophie to find people just like them, and also to explore her powers and come to terms with it. When Life is Strange Reunion came along, Diamond was AWOL. There was no contact with her, she was no longer on campus, she wasn't replying to any messages. She had just seemingly vanished. That is until we get a phone call at the very end of the game.
Diamond?
Hey, Max. I know I've been mostly ducking you since I left Caledon, but I heard about the fire. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Are you and Moses doing okay?
But it could have been so much worse. So I'm grateful.
I'm guessing you had more than a little to do with that. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. You and Safi are the only two people I know who are like me. But for Safi, I don't think her power makes her feel powerful. I think it makes her feel trapped. What about you, Max? Does your power feel like a gift? Or do you feel trapped too? That makes sense. Thanks, Max.
Come on. You have to give me more than that. What's going on with you?
I'm almost ready to talk about it. And when I am, you'll be my first call. I promise.
I'll be waiting for it. I should get back to the memorial. Keep in touch, okay?
I'll be around.
So we all assumed Diamond was going to be the bad guy in Reunion because she was missing. There was no signs of her whatsoever, but it turns out she was just away. She had no malicious intentions to Caledon whatsoever. But instead, in this phone call at the end of Reunion, it confirms that Diamond does indeed have powers, and that Max and Safi are the only two she knows who have powers too. And it sounds like Diamond is kind of exploring the emotional end of having powers. You know, like, is it a curse or is it a gift? Now, Diamond is not ready to talk about her powers or tell us what they are, so this is where we are potentially heading into the next Life is Strange game. That door is wide open. And this is a smart move on Deck 9's part. You know, they're not going to tell us what Diamond's power is until we get a game with her, because by telling us the power now, they're more or less telling us the story of the next game, and they're also opening the door to be harshly judged before anything's even released. I think Diamond would be the perfect protagonist for our next game. She's a woman of colour. I don't know how canon it is, but it's rumoured that she's asexual, and that's something that Life is Strange hasn't explored yet. And overall, she has potential to have a big story behind her. She can be a really relatable character once we delve into her backgrounds. But the biggest question I have is, what type of story will Diamond have? I want to know what powers she has. So when we look at the Life is Strange franchise so far, we have time travel, we have telekinesis, we have the ability to read others' emotions. And I know Tell Me Why isn't supposed to be in the same universe as Life is Strange, but I consider it to be. And in that case, we have a set of twins with psychic abilities. So because Diamond is a filmmaker, it's kind of theorized that she will have the power of manipulation and creation. And that, you know, being a filmmaker is kind of a little hint towards that. And given how calm Diamond is with her powers and how casual she is talking to Max about it and asking, is it a gift or is it a curse? I kind of feel like her powers are going to relate mostly to Alex's. With Max and Daniel, their powers put them in situations that made them feel like they were cursed. But with Alex's, she just kind of lived with her power and knew she had it. So I feel like whatever Diamond's power is, it's going to be debatable on whether or not it's a hindrance. There's a theory going around that Diamond has the voice of command power, which is kind of like the girl in Umbrella Academy, and that she can manipulate and persuade people to do things for her with a psychic push. This is something different in the Life is Strange series, and I also think it's something that fits perfectly. I'm not gonna lie, I've been having a really hard time trying to think of a power that hasn't already been done in Life is Strange, but would also make sense for the franchise. You know, for example, somebody having the power to make something appear in front of them or making something happen with the flick of a finger, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, that to me is unrealistic in this universe. So most likely it'll be powers to do with mental and emotional usage. I like the idea of voice of command because it can be kind of like Chloe's back talk in the sense that you have one chance to get it right, you have to make a split decision and it's either going to be right or wrong and there's no way of undoing it. But then again, if Deck 9 really wanted to bring Max back, Diamond could just always call her and ask her to rewind the last 5 minutes and undo everything she just did. So we could potentially have long distance time traveling. A lot of people were saying they didn't like Diamond's character because they didn't relate to her. She just kind of felt like in the background. And I think that's exactly what they wanted. They didn't want to give us too much of Diamond because they wanted to tell her own story in her own right, in her own game. And if they went ahead and made a game with Diamond, you know, it would be very sneaky on the developer's end. You know, they had this character who seemingly blended into the background. And little did we know, when talking to her, we were actually going to be taking on her story next. Now, there's a big question of what happens to Deck 9 after Life is Strange Reunion, because Double Exposure didn't do so well, and they were under a 2-game contract, so they had to make Reunion to fulfill the contract. And a lot of their staff were let go as Reunion was finishing. So we don't know what the future holds for Deck 9. We don't know if they're going to be forced to close or what's going to happen. However, if they do get the funding to take on another Life is Strange game, they could very well go with Diamond. However, if they don't, and Square Enix wants to continue the franchise with a different studio, they've kind of left the preparations there for whoever takes it on next. If the next studio that wants to take on Life is Strange wants to do their own thing, well, okay, fair enough, that's good. But if they were also like, well, where do we go from here? Well, Deck 9 has left them the materials they need to start a game with Diamond and do their own thing with her. So either way, Deck 9 has left everything ready for the next studio to use, or for them to use, depending on what happens. I would personally love to see a game with Diamond. I would love to see the voice of command power. And overall, I think Diamond is a character that can bring a story to the Life is Strange franchise that we're used to. She can bring representation, she can bring education, and that is something I've always loved with the Life is Strange franchise. So what do you think? Are we getting Diamond as our next protagonist? And what do you think her mysterious power is? Let me know in the comments because I love reading them, and I will see you in the next discussion video. Bye!